Panther builders out there. This is Dan Heath, Panther Builder, Panther serial number 020. So that makes me one of the early builders. And this is a conventional gear, as you certainly will be able to see as we start doing the walk around here. And this is my brother Dave. I couldn't have built this plane without him. He was very helpful, not only being a second pair of hands, but also helping me work my way through some of the things that I will talk about later on in here, where we had to make some pretty big decisions on what to do. So, prior to starting on this Panther, I had built two KR two-place airplanes, the KR2, not the S. And they were planes that I had picked up. They were projects that I picked up from somebody else and finished them. The second project, or the second plane that I built, I had flown it up to Illinois for a KR gathering, and on the way back encountered some pretty bad weather and did some damage to the plane. Hauled it back home and decided that I was going to either not build anything else or look for something. And I had heard that Dan, and I knew Dan from the Corvair stuff from Corvair colleges, that Dan had come out with a new plane and was putting it on the market. So I thought that that was coming. I just didn't know what it was going to be or when it would come out, and actually I was quite surprised that it came out as soon as it did. So I looked into that and got pretty excited about it. In fact, a whole lot of people in my chapter were excited about it too, but much to my dismay, none of them decided to go ahead and build one, so I was left here all by myself. I've never built a metal plane before, this being my first. The other two planes were KRs, and the KR is a foam, wood, and fiberglass aircraft. So that's why I chose the Panther. And the main reason, what led me to it, was because I had a Corvair engine, the 2700, in my KR, and I thought, well, heck, I've got the engine, I've got all the instruments, and I've never flown a passenger in the second seat in either of the KRs that I had, so why not just build a single place aircraft? And this one gives me a whole lot more baggage room. The baggage area in my KR really was the right seat. So there were a lot of advantages to doing this, and it really centered around the Corvair engine, because I thought at the time, I was under the impression that the Panther was designed around the Corvair engine, and so that would be a logical choice to go with that. I found out later from posts that Dan had made that that really wasn't the case. So what is my favorite thing about building in general? I got to go back a long ways to kind of answer that question, because quite frankly right now I'm pretty sick of building. I had thought this was going to take me 2 years to build, and I'm in my 5th year now. So it's still interesting to be able to solve problems, to be able to come up with ways of doing things that aren't necessarily part of the plans, as you will see as I go around and talk about some of the unique things on this Panther. And so
maybe the best thing is getting finished.
The best thing is getting finished. You're absolutely right, Dave. We are all anxiously awaiting that first flight. But on the KRs, basically you had to figure everything out. There was nothing. On the Panther, there were a few things left to figure out. which was pretty kind of nice to be able to figure those things out. So that leads me to what's the favorite part of the Panther build. Well, I think everybody would agree with me that the way the parts fit together, the engineering detail behind it is just absolutely amazing. I have been impressed with that from day one on the Panther. The only thing would be for me is that because I didn't do as good a job on the spars as I would have liked to, and mainly that's that bushing that goes in where the pins go through, I would have liked the option, looking in hindsight, to be able to get spars that were pre-built. That would solve a lot of the issues. So what made me choose the engine that I did? You can't see the engine now, but we'll be showing a good bit of that right at the end of the walk around. I am really excited about this engine. I didn't know I was going to be as excited about it when I chose it as I am. I was looking at the list of supported engines and saw that the UL Power was on that list. And so I started investigating it, and the big issue that really hit me, well, there were two. One was it was so light, which turned out maybe be a disadvantage, but the other one was the FADEC, fully automated digital engine control. So I only have one control to worry about to run this engine, the throttle. That's it. Don't have anything else, don't have a throttle quadrant, I just have one place where my throttle is mounted, and I will show you that later. This engine, I have taxied with this engine, I've started it, and it is the smoothest engine that I have ever sat behind. And we'll talk about that more after first flight. So, what avionics do I have? Well, back when I had my first KR2, a friend of mine had Dynon D10A, I think it was at the time. And he was going to upgrade his to, I think it was the D100 or the D180. And so he sold me his D10A for a pretty good price. Well, that was just a natural progression for me. Once I put that little tiny glass module in there, I just couldn't stop. I had to keep adding this and adding that. And so when I went to the Panther, I decided that everything was going to be Dynon. So the entire instrument panel now is Dynon. I have Dynon Autopilot in it. I have Dynon ADS-B in and out. GPS, everything in there. Dynon radios, the whole thing is Dynon. Why did I choose Dynon? I guess it's just because that's where I started, and I've liked it. The support is fantastic. I don't think you can beat the support with Dynon. They call you right back. You can come out here and sit in your cockpit and describe the problem to them and show them what's going on, and they'll ask you questions and tell you what to do and stuff like that until you finally get a resolution, and they will stay with you until you get a resolution. The kind of flying that I like to do, mainly the kind that I really love to do, is to take off on a cross country, doesn't matter short or long, at least long enough to get up above a layer of broken clouds so I can fly above the clouds and know that there's plenty of room to get down. I love cross-country flying. Putting around the airfield has never really interested me a lot, but I am committed to doing a whole lot more of that so that I can become a more proficient pilot with the Panther. My understanding is the Panther is a very easy airplane to fly, and so I'm going to see and get as good at it as I can. Answer, how does the Panther fit my flying goals? Going to be kind of hard to say that other than to go on some information that I got from the only other Panther flying right now with this engine prop configuration. And I believe that it is going to provide me with a really good rate of climb. to get up over those low-lying broken clouds that I love to fly above. It allows plenty of room for great avionics and an autopilot. I like cross-country flying, and in a light airplane like this, I've flown without an autopilot and with, and believe me, it really comes in handy when you're going across and getting in some kind of bumpy weather. And another thing, of course, this plane offers a good bit of baggage room, which would be nice for camping over. We have a great place called Triple Tree Aerodrome, not far from here, where they have some great fly-ins over the years, usually, when we're not in COVID lockdowns. And I really want to participate in those and to other fly-ins and maybe camp over. And it's fast enough, as far as I'm concerned, for good all cross-country flying. So now let me show you some of the things that I think make this Panther just a little bit unique. I talked earlier and said, well, I really didn't like building anymore, sort of, but there are things that I did really enjoy with this Panther and solving some little issues. A lot of those revolved around the cockpit area where I wanted to change a few things. So I'm going to move the camera up a little bit. So here you can see one of the main things, and that is this area right here around the front of the canopy. This right here, I don't know if other people have run across this. I know at least a couple of builders have, trying to get this fit really good here. I did it by taking this, you can see it's probably a little bit longer than yours or others are. I sanded this down with a very coarse sandpaper, and then I laid several layers of fiberglass on the top. When that was cured, took it over, flipped it over, took the canopy off and flipped it over, and put a couple of layers of fiberglass on the bottom, and of course a lot of finish work. There's virtually no space in here. There's a little space down here along the edge on both sides. Another thing that is pretty unique about this aircraft is that I don't have any screws along here. All of this is pinned in. Let me make sure you can see up the top. Maybe you can or not. But anyway, right in here, I have this pinned across the top too. I actually have the top cowl comes and overlaps this a little bit right in here. I do still have to have the screws because I felt like you have to maintain the space between this bulkhead and the instrument panel bulkhead for putting everything else on. We'll get to the engine a little bit later. Of course, that is fairly unique. The cowling itself is all hinged, and I'll crank down here. You can see right along the side, this hinge pin right here is what holds the bottom cowl in on both sides. And then, of course, it is where the seam is across the center. There's a hinge pin there, and then it's also secured in the front with an insert for the air inlets to the plenums. This right here is probably the most unique thing that will stick out right away, and that is the wing root gap covers. Put this right up here so you can see. We build them like this on the KR, and the thing with the KR is that they're built on the fuselage. They're built right on the plane. How so? So with this, what I had to do On the KR, there's a section right here that's actually fit to the fuselage. It's part of the wing that actually fits. It's the wing stub that fits to the fuselage. And so you actually build this here, and it's real nice and easy because you can sand this down and then fit it right on in. However, given this situation, I had to be able to take this off and put it back on several times. So it was really quite a long process and a lot of steps to get it done. Needless to say, I'm not really recommending that to anyone because it really was difficult to do. I'll bring this camera over here. Since I'm by myself today, Dave couldn't make it out. I'm having to do this on my own. So I want to show you as much as I can about the things that might be a little bit different here. On the canopy, you may notice that the this actually extends down. I left this long so that it would cover this gap, and I have a different way of actually doing the gap on the other side. Put a handle on the outside to make it easy to lift up. I kind of can get my finger under here a little bit to hold it while I grab the other handle that's on the inside and open it all the way up. Okay, we're going to start here at the wingtip. I want to show you the extension that I built to handle the Avio Flash LED lights, the great lights. I really like them. I had to put extension on it to get visibility toward the back of the plane. And just to show you, I put in screws for all of the wing tips, all the flying surface tips. Now we're going to come over here, and I'm going to need to raise this canopy again. So I try to do it with one hand. Here we go. Grab it here, lift it, and then when you get it up a certain ways, grab the handle on the inside and just let it open up. And notice that gas spring over there. Really nice thing that Dan supplied for us. I really love it. I have a GoPro mounted here on my roll bar. Hopefully that I'll be using that soon for the first flight. Take a quick look down here inside. This is something else that I did. I don't know that anyone else has done this. I felt like those little attachments that go on the hat structures, those angles that go across to reinforce the strength of the floor, would get beat up by throwing baggage into it. So I put covers on them. I extended this section here up a little bit, and that's where I put my ADS-B. While we're in here, let's take a look. There is where my autopilot pitch servo sits, and notice all the cables that are run. Now those cables go, and they all run underneath a channel. There you go. And then up the side through a channel, and then we'll back up and come out around here, and then through channels on both sides all the way down and goes up under into the shelf there. Right here is a iPad mount that's on there by suction cup right now until I decide exactly where I'm going to put it. Right here is the internal part of what you can see from the inside of the gap seal on that side. And it's attached with a lot of little screws going through an extra little metal plate that I made out of 020 aluminum. There's another part right there that helps to seal the gap. I ordered an extra block from SPA and put that in there. Just scan across here real quick, and you can see there's my GPS puck, And here's the sky view. It's a 7-inch sky view, radio and other things. Looking down here, you see the Newton fuel selector valve. You have to have an extra valve, extra kind of valve that will return fuel when you have a fuel injected engine that pumps the fuel at 40 pounds per square inch through the system. It goes around the system, feeding all the injectors, and then returns the fuel to the tank that it came from. In order to put this in here, I had to make my own special mount that went on top of the existing mount. Actually, I had to cut up the existing mount a little bit and then make this plate that went on there. Going up underneath, you can see here where there's a plate on the channels that run up each side. There's a plate mounted that I have attached the cabin heat control to. Okay, and we come on back here. I added a little swing out thing for putting your headset on and then hiding it back away from the sun and then out of the way when you're flying. This nice little unit right here is a vernier assist. Notice I only have my cabin heat, which is down here that I was just showing you. This is a vernier assist. It's just a push-pull, but it's actually a vernier. If you push in ever so slightly and turn, it will go in. If you pull ever so slightly and turn, it will come out. And I really love this thing. It's from McFarlane. I added onto here also a holder for the headset control. There we go. Okay, I think that about covers the interior of the plane and the changes that I made. Okay, let's go around and we'll take a look at this. I didn't really make any changes to this, but this is the only part that I found on the plane that actually did not fit at all. It wasn't even close. I'm sure you all have found the same. So I was whining and crying to some of my RV buddies, and they said, hey, don't feel bad. They don't come to fit on RVs either, and there's over 10,000 RVs out there. So anyway, he showed me a way to go about fixing this to make it fit, and I think it came out pretty good. As you can see, it's only held by one screw on either side. So we'll just go around the plane here real quick. Oh, I didn't show you the static vents. These are static vents that are the way they're done by the Vans people right there. It's just a rivet that goes into a piece of Nylaflow. So here we are. This is the outside view of this side, and I know there have been several discussions about this on the site, and that's why I wanted to point it out. It's just a bubble that I think I got from McMaster Car and attached it the way I showed you on the inside. And there's another view of the wing root fairing on this side. It's held on with 3 screws on the top and I believe 3 on the bottom. So we're going to come around. As you can see over there, we have our engine. And let me show you real quickly the top of the cowling. I have the bottom in for doing some repairs to it from having to move where the oil cooler is. But that's pretty long cowling, I should say. Okay. Until I get this plane painted, I would suggest that this right here is probably the prettiest part of the airplane. That's a WhirlWind 3-blade ground adjustable 60-inch prop that I have set at 17 degrees right now. Now you can see here, and I won't just pass this up since we're going right in. Here's where I had to move the cooler to in order to get enough cooling. The first plane that flew with this configuration wasn't getting enough cooling, and he had his cooler remote mounted as I was doing, and he had his mounted down in there on the firewall. I had mine mounted in this big space right in here, and it was ducted with a 4-inch duct on a NASA vent. And I was told by many people that that was not going to work. And the gentleman who had done his first and flew it, he had extremely high oil temperatures. So I decided to take the advice and go ahead and move mine while I could. I had to build this part for the McFarlane right here. It's very secure. I like it because it's attached with it's not a cable like on a bicycle. It's attached with a bolt, and I'm thinking it's not going to come loose. Now this plane does not allow for a pressure cowl. It has plenums, one on each side. And so I needed to get the air into those plenums. And so I made these caps on the front. There's one on this side and one over here on this side. And then once I put the cowling in, I have a fitting that fits into that space so that air only goes into the plenum itself, and hopefully that's going to provide enough cooling for me. We'll see. Only have one more thing to show you that I had to do for this because the engine was mounted so far forward. The original exhaust pipe came back to about here. I cut that off to about here so that I could get the rest of this to go down and around and go up underneath as it does on your Panthers probably. I made this hanger per information I got from an RV builder. They have to do the same thing pretty much. This exhaust pipe is made out of stainless U-bends, what we call U-bends from U-bends, stainless steel bends. I ordered several of them. I have a few extra left laying around because I had to kind of fiddle with it until I got the right shape. I want to point out here real quick, I did not do this welding, but my goodness, isn't that pretty. Since I have so much room, I can have these panels on here where I can screw on my sensor fittings and such, and all kinds of things. There's coils on each side. I imagine you probably have never seen a UL power engine mounted. So I'll back up a little bit and see if I can get a few views for you. This is it mounted on a Panther. So that's about it, folks. Y'all have a great day, and it's been great talking to you, except for the fact that I wish I could really be talking with you in person, and hopefully you and I could both share some information. I look forward to that one day. Bye for now.